Hi, welcome to the second part of my discussing the game here of White Scheve versus Teichmann, played in Berlin 1907, and Black just played its 11th move of Queen takes e5. Please see the my first part, or my last lecture, to cover the first or the previous moves. And I just discussed how White got rid of its, maybe if I back up a couple moves, White just captured this knight here, getting rid of its main defender of the king side. Black recaptures, and now the queen actually is even eyeing more of this space over here. And the real question is, what should White move now? Well, it makes a very poor choice in a move. It actually plays knight to d2. And what White is hoping is that Black will play knight takes e4, and then White can play knight takes. And if queen takes, then once again we have this rook to e1 move, pinning the queen against the king, winning the queen. But to me, this is sort of playing wishful chess. You shouldn't really play, well, gee, I hope my opponent plays that move, because you should always expect your opponent to play the best move. And in this position, the best move was actually probably queen to f3. So, but White plays knight to d2. And now is the beginning of the end for White. Basically, if you look at it, if White would have moved its queen over here, the king side would have had at least a defender. But the king side is without a defender, and now Black can rip open the pawn structure, what I sometimes refer to as the pawn shield around the king, and invade and end the game. So how does Black do this? Well, now bishop takes h3, and if White doesn't recapture, Black has won a pawn. But White recaptures, and now queen to g3 check. And notice that the queen is immune from capture because of the pin right here. So it forces White to go to h1, the only move. Now the queen will capture, because the idea is that it wants to bring its knight here. And with the pawn there previously, it could be captured by the pawn. So queen takes the pawn with check. King has to go back. And now Black moves in another piece. Notice there's 3 pieces bearing down now on the king. And how many defenders do we have for the king? Well, not only really one, but not the rook is doing a very poor job. So White would move the queen to f3, we wouldn't have had this problem. And if we would have gotten rid of its knight previously on f3, we probably wouldn't have had this problem. So now White tries to play knight to f3, because Black is threatening checkmate right here. So the queen down to h2 would be checkmate. So White moves to knight to f3 to defend that square. Now White could try, if I back up, White could try bishop takes f7 check. Now probably the best move for Black in this position is just to move the king. But if Black retakes, then we have queen to f3 check, and notice it's also hitting the queen, which is not protected, so it forces black to recapture, and then white will recapture. And then actually, white is only now down a pawn, believe it or not. So that would have been probably a good thing for white. But backing up. So whoops, the knight had moved to g4, and white had moved the knight to f3. Well, now the end comes for white. Black plays queen to g3, excuse me. This forces the king to go to h1 again. And now black plays bishop takes f2. And what's really happening here is that, black is threatening to move to here and to give check. If that happens, white cannot go to g1. So look at the alternatives. The most logical thing would be, we'll say, well, I'll just take, if white takes the bishop, then black simply takes with the knight, and that is checkmate. And white really doesn't have any good moves. How can it now defend against queen over to here check? Because if it's really hard to find a good move for white. I really don't have a good move. There's really no move to save it. White is going to have to sacrifice material maybe to prevent checkmate. Let's just say white makes a move. I don't know. Just picking a move, queen to e2. Well, now, queen to h3. Now this knight has to come back to h2 and then checkmate. White could maybe try to sacrifice the bishop here again. Something like that. I don't know. Could try moving the bishop to here, sacrificing the bishop, but then white's just losing material and is going to lose the game. So that concludes my annotated game